This is Darnell Diesel Moon, the upset artist, the boogeyman, however y'all want to put it. And I'm here to give a shout out to my guys. I love listening to John, Charles, and Frank on Real Talk Boxing.
There we are, back on the Ultimate Sports Network. This is Real Boxing Talk, or as Darnell keeps saying, Real Talk Boxing. We really don't care, because if you remember 2 years ago, I couldn't get it right either, so ain't no big deal. All right, we're going to talk some boxing, actual matches that have occurred. We've got Charles riled up about something, so we're going to let him start with no preamble. Go!
Oh, wow. No, so anyway, watching this fight and just kind of looking at some things, trying to get ready for the main event. And I definitely wanted to see Gary Antoine Russell fight Victor Postol. That's what I was kind of waiting on. And then they had the other fight with Colbert. But at the start, I'm watching the fight. I'm like, oh, my signals ain't right. I'm feeling real good. So I see these guys fighting, and they're like little dudes. So, you know, actually they were junior bantamweights. So the fight was between Fernando Martinez versus Jerwin Ancajas.
Ancajas. Yes. I call it Ancajas, but it's close enough.
Yes.
Was the champion, right? And Ancajas
it has been for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's he's from the Filipino descent. When you think about Manny Pacquiao, he almost seems like a Manny Pacquiao disciple, the way that he fights. And then Martinez, at first I thought he was Mexican, but I found out he's Argentinian. So they're fighting, and it was an amazing fight. Champion comes out, and he's throwing hands, and he reminds me of Pacquiao back in the day when Pacquiao was more or less, he had a basic style. He would move a lot, counter punch you, and just when you thought you were coming out with these crazy shots, he would slow down, make a move, slide to the left, slide to the right, and then come back and be more dominant because of the style with his counterpunching. And that's how I first started out with the first couple rounds with Ancajas doing what he did. And then all of a sudden, Martinez came alive. And, man, all I'm saying to you is, I don't want to spoil it. We can talk about it. You guys talk about it, too, about who won. But they were going at it. It was one style coming up, and when you thought Martinez was coming down, here comes another guy, and then Martinez ends up trying to take over. Bottom line for me, as I wait on my other opportunity, they combined to throw over 1,800 punches in this fight. 1,800 nonstop action. And I said to myself, man, this is like watching Juan Manuel Marquez versus Manny Pacquiao 1. It was just nonstop. Nobody wanted to stop fighting. One guy eventually ended up winning and being more dominant, but the punches never stopped. Now, to me, that's boxing.
See, the thing, give you a little background on where we're going with this. Excuse me. That Pacquiao Marquez won. He called me and said, you got to watch this. It was like middle of the first round, end of the first round. He sent me a text for this one, and I was in the middle of doing something else. But that's the only other time he said, stop what you're doing, you got to see this. So that, and that's the span of 20 years or however long it's been. So understanding that's how he felt about that, because, you know, I don't want to say jaded, but we're used to things now. So we see something that's really good, we're like, yeah, we'll catch it later. No problem at all, because we're used to seeing something that's that exciting. But for him to actually say, wait a second, stop the presses, take a look. I mean, and as you said, fight of the year candidate.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, not bad. Okay, so we'll circle back to that, but let's look at something that we've been, you know, the next guy that we've been talking about. And maybe we're not talking about him enough, or maybe we're talking about him too much. I don't know, but the guy that holds all the belts and doesn't seem like anyone believes he can be challenged. And we even said on a couple of different occasions, well, what we say, John, that, well, he's 18-1 underdog, and I got it mixed up, but I knew what I meant. It's like, well, yeah, anything can happen. No, anything can't happen. This is a lock. Anything can happen. Tell us about Josh Taylor's fight.
Well, in the third round, I was thinking I was flashing on Cambosis and Teofimo Lopez. And there's been so many upsets lately. I mean, Colbert, Charles mentioned, he was a 10-1 favorite. He gets his butt kicked. The Filipino gets his butt kicked. Nobody expected that. I mean, that was a little bit closer, but it was Martinez people were underrating. And obviously people were underrating Jack Catterall because he wasn't supposed to be able to handle this. He goes to Glasgow. He goes to Josh Taylor's hometown. This is a big homecoming. He's fighting the unified champion, undefeated. He's undefeated. Big wow. He hasn't fought anybody.
Right.
He's fought a bunch of no names, so he's not gonna. And I'm quoting kind of from myself here. So I'm just. When I wrote an article about it, Andre Ward said exactly the same thing I was thinking. He said afterward he was stunned. He had studied Catterall, and I had too, and he didn't think it was possible that he would be able to do what he did. And I actually used his quote because it was exactly what I thought. I was watching it with my eyebrows like this. And it was just like Jack Catterall said. He goes, look, he's over anxious, and I'm going to catch him because he's over anxious. And maybe because of the pressure of trying to impress all his hometown fans, he was more anxious, and Catterall just kept hitting him. And was it a robbery? No. I've been reading about that. No, it wasn't a robbery. Very, very hard fight to judge because you got one guy moving forward and you got another guy moving back and countering. So one guy's aggressive. One guy, in other words, is making the fight. The other guy's kind of laying back, and then bam. But he scored. So you got to give it to him there. So I think I had Catterall winning by 1 point, but I actually would have preferred that it was a draw. I didn't want Catterall to lose because I thought that he upset the apple cart in every way. He's better than everybody thought. He goes to this guy's hometown and performs. He's as cool as a cucumber. He's not. Taylor looks all before the fight. Jack Catterall's just kind of standing there looking at him like he does this every day. I mean, that was a guy that rose to the occasion. So you got to give it to him for that. He'd been waiting 3 years for a shot at the title. He was not freaked like we thought. So this is, again, when you think you know, and then in the odds makers, 14-1 underdog. So everybody was wrong on this one. So, but that's been happening a lot. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of surprises going on, and I was sitting there after that going, why is that happening? You don't usually see that many upsets in boxing. You see 1 or 2 every 4 or 5 months. You don't see 4 or 5 in a span of 4 months.
Right.
Well, what is it? The pandemic did the old things? Did Taylor overestimate or underestimate Catterall and overestimate his own skills? Because he kept running into the same punch, and you're like, hey, he got knocked down for the first time in his career. See, for me, that cemented it. Catterall should have got the decision. But you knew he was in Glasgow.
Right. That's going to be tough. Right.
How was he going to get it? And he didn't. And Taylor came on the last 3 or 4 rounds. He did. I think I had him winning 3 of the last 4. A lot of people had him sweeping. Like this, it's even like Bradley and Pacquiao a little bit. I'm almost done here. Bradley did a lot more in the first fight, even though I always thought Pacquiao won the first one. But he did a lot of little clever things that you didn't see in the first fight. Little counter punches, and they're scoring punches. They're just so subtle. You're not seeing this. Pacquiao's the ruling dervish. He's so fast and everything. But then there's Bradley kind of laying back, bam, bam, and those are scoring shots. So Catterall was kind of like that, and he knocked him down, and his eye was all messed up. Taylor's. He did everything but get the decision.
Well, some of the things that we talk about in fights, and Charles says it all the time, and other people have it as well. Styles make fights. So that's one thing. But also, and this could be something completely off base, but just run with it and see what you think, is that in this day and age of, now maybe not for Josh Taylor, maybe not for Ancajas, but maybe for other people, that the hype is so much for whomever is the guy, especially when you're fighting a nobody, supposedly, and is it overconfidence? Is it undertraining? And as you mentioned, John, when you see the in the ring ready to get going, like the last 2 minutes of what's going on, Josh Taylor doesn't look like the champion. Josh Taylor looks like he has something to prove, and it doesn't look like he knows how to prove it. Whereas Catterall looked like, let's bring it on. I'm ready to go. So there's that thing. It's the idea of you come to the ring ready to go, and did you leave it all in the dressing room or whatever? But I'm starting to see, and maybe we'll have to look at all these fights and look at the pattern. First of all, I think the odds makers are over inflating things, for one thing. And that's just because it gets more people involved. Hey, we put him at 16-1 and when it really should be 8-1, we get more action that way. He's not going to win anyway, so it doesn't matter. So there's that. Also, I think it's that we start to see, or they start to see, hey, I've got a chance. Like Charles said, I've got a chance. I'm going to bring my game and I've got a shot. And if I do what I'm supposed to do, maybe it plays out. And if the other guy's not prepared for it, you're 3 rounds in going, what do I've lost 3 rounds. What do I do? It's not like when you're fighting, say, I don't know, Bernard Hopkins, where he's given away those rounds. If you take those first 3 rounds, 4 rounds, now you've got a whole nother atmosphere of what you have to do. Again, you talk about the knockdown. There's another point. Now I've got to do something. Now you're in waters that you weren't used to being in. Now what happens? Now again, but you mentioned this perfectly, you still got to beat the champ to get the champ, especially in his hometown. So, hey, it may sound stupid, but that is the way it is. So now, Charles, I'm going to go back to the fight you're talking about, which was a championship fight, but it's the undercard.
Right.
And this was junior bantamweights, if I remember correctly, correct? All right. Yeah. So this is a fight, and I'm going to get back on that old horse. I'm sorry about that. This is a fight that you should have said, why wasn't this a main event? But even when it's what it was, you look around going, these guys can play. What about that fight you said, when it just hit you, like, this is going to be an epic fight, or at least a fight of the year fight? What about it made you see that? What turned your mind into it? I'm watching the undercard, who cares? To, oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, part of it was the factor that the hype previously that the champion had, right? So he was more or less like a Pacquiao disciple. The way his style was very similar to Pacquiao. So it was kind of one of those things where you go, it's gonna be a matter of time. And Martinez was coming out, whatever. Guess his dad was Abel Martinez. Yeah, that's his dad. So he came out just fine and whatever, but you just kind of thought that the champion's a little better, right? A little bit more polished. He was a champion, so he's gonna sooner or later, enforce his will. It's like, okay, you had a nice little run, Martinez, but now you're gonna disappear. Right. The actuality was, like in round 5 or round 6, Martinez was dealing with all of the stuff, and the champion was coming up on him and doing his thing. And then Martinez was like not going away. And then after a while, you started to see where he was starting to overpower. He seemed to have more stamina and started landing more shots than the champion. And the champion would go back to the ring, and every time he get hit, he's one of those guys that, and this reminds me of Pacquiao, where he get hit, and instead of going, oh, you hurt me, he kind of go, touch his head and touch his gloves and like hit himself in the face, like, all right, get yourself together. And I'm like, oh my God, is he really, he's enjoying this, but he's mad because he's getting hit. But there was that point, maybe round 5, definitely round 6, where Martinez, the challenger, really started to be the better fighter. He was landing more shots. And it was surprising because of what he was doing, because I thought the champion was the better counterpuncher. And then at that point where, even though they're still banging and they're throwing all these punches and the champion is throwing punches, you'll literally see this challenger start to become the more dominant fighter in the fight. And you're like, this is not supposed to happen. But the beauty of it was fight of the year is the champion never stopped. So again, when I say to you, on the average of whatever the average of fights, how many punches they threw 1,800 punches for the whole fight. Think about that, man. You don't know what I'm talking about? Go back and look what the average is up. 2 men, 1,800 punches for entire. It is amazing. A lot. So that's why it was fight of the year to me, or close to it.
Okay, John, now we're looking at something kind of where what Charles said is that the challenger is in the ring and realizes, I can do this. And in sports, we all have had that feeling once or twice or a dozen times. You're on the court, you're in the gym, or you're someplace, and you go, I thought this guy was supposed to be good. Or, which is even scarier, I thought I was supposed to be better than that guy. And when that realization hits, suddenly it's like, that's where momentum and fear and all that stuff takes place. Is that what it felt like to you, that Taylor was like, I'm going to go about my business doing what I'm supposed to do. And Catterall went, I'm supposed to be here. I can play with this guy.
Yeah, it reminded me that the old cliche that if you let a guy who's a big underdog hang around and start getting success, he starts to really believe that he can do better. And then you start going, wow, this guy's a lot better than I thought.
Right.
It changes, the whole mindset. And Catterall already seemed to know that he was going to do well. He seemed to have a plan. And I think it was Taylor that was more surprised than including the crowd. The crowd was a lot of times kind of silent during all this. So it was kind of cool that they were waiting for the coronation, and there was no coronation. It was just Taylor struggling to hit Catterall with anything solid, and he really never did in 12 rounds, which was really body shots, yes, but not anything really hard enough that really made Catterall go, that was a good shot. And the only bad negative for Jack Catterall was that he got tired later in the fight. That was the thing. If he had somehow had a motor that he never got tired, he never got tired, but he didn't wear out a little bit, because he was ahead probably 5-1 after 6 rounds, I would say 4 or 5-1, and I wasn't really scoring because I was trying to write about it while my mouth was wide open. Which, multitasking here, but I've seen that before. I saw another fight where it was supposed to be a tune-up. I think it was at Lubin was fighting this guy, and the guy was just like a record of like 27 or something. So it's like, he's gonna. Well, after he sustained a pounding for 2 or 3 rounds, Lubin got tired. I mean, I'm not sure it was Lubin. It was junior middleweight, and he came on and he won. And it was just the same thing. It's like, okay, yeah, you're pretty good. You are good, like they said, but I'm good. And you're getting tired, and I'm in good shape. I'm gonna surprise you. And he did. I've seen that. I mean, the classic is Muhammad Ali and Ken Norton won. I mean, not only did Muhammad Ali find out that Ken Norton was his kryptonite, and styles, about style, Frank. We're going back here, a little segue.
Right.
He also found out that when he trained, it was hard. But when he didn't train, when his Howard Cosell or somebody said he was training in the parking lot, to fight a guy like Ken Norton, who didn't have nearly the same success later on with other fighters, he had problems with him no matter what. So underestimate him or not, but just think about the first one. He completely underestimated him, got his jaw broke, and lost. So there's a combination, and I think you guys hit it, was you're maybe a little overconfident or underestimate, and the guy's better than you thought. You combine that, and then you get this result. It's like Chris Colbert being whooped on. Who saw that? Right? And the guy was a lot better, and Martinez, back to him for a second, 30-year-old guy, undefeated. Who was he? He had his moment, and he rumbled and he won. So yeah, I think it's all of those things that we're talking about.
Something that's coming up, and look, we love the guy, we get that, but is this kind of this matchup coming up this weekend? Is this one of those things where the guy that we don't know about, who replaced the guy that we knew about, might have a pretty good chance? We're talking the Chocolatito fight. Now, we all know Chocolatito, at least we talk about like we know Chocolatito, who's, if I'm not mistaken, like 50-3, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's fighting Julio Cesar Martinez, who's lost 1 fight, 18-1. Now, here's the thing that we haven't paid attention to. Martinez has held a title before. It's not like he's just some rummy off the street. He can fight. So is this one of those, wait a second, what's going to happen this round? What's going to happen this fight? Charles, we love Chocolatito. We get that. But is this one of those, maybe? Now, I haven't even looked at the odds of this. I'm not sure what it is. I'm going to assume Chocolatito's favored by a little bit. But, yeah. Okay. But is this one of those, will we even call it an upset? Not that we want to see Chocolatito go down, but will this be an upset, you think?
I still think it's an upset. I do. If Martinez can win, I think it's an upset because of what Chocolatito has done. I mean, when he came back, and even with that last fight, which I think he won, so yeah, I think it would be an upset because he's proven himself at this age, at such a mature age, that he still can bang with the young guys, and he surprised them that he's still doing it. Surprised the hell out of me as well. But yeah, I think it would be an upset. But in regards to what might happen, anything can happen because we've seen that, right? The last few weeks,
the last few months, right?
You don't know. But my man guy has a motor. I'm not walking away from my man Chocolatito. He has a motor, unlike none other. And Martinez, if he does win, he's going to have to bring it. Chocolatito is not going to sit there and go, well, this is not the guy I'm supposed to be fighting. And nah, you step in that ring, because Chocolatito was looking forward to getting his title back and all that stuff. He's want to handle it. So I don't think he's going to come in there, more nonchalant. He has a motor, man. That's one thing I love about him. The man is too old for his own good to be in the ring. But even when he gets in the box, when you put him in the phone booth, it's like, what we do when we get in the phone booth. So unless he's older, tired, or something else is happening, I cannot really see him. I can't see him laying down. It's going to take a hell of an effort for him to be defeated, like he did the last time that they even took the fight from him.
But John, this is one of those situations where we keep talking about, this guy is this guy is that. He does all this, all that. And then we look at the other guy, and just because we're not hyping him up, we forget that this is a former champion that's 18-1. Now, that's not a ton of experience, but he at least knows what it's like to get a belt and be in there. We said the same thing about some other fights. Like, I go back to the Valdez Burchelt fight. It's like Burchelt was the guy we were talking about. We didn't mention that Valdez was undefeated too. So is this something where this is an up and comer that is ready to be there, or is it Chocolatito's got too much experience, or will we be surprised if it happens and Martinez wins?
There's a lot there. I wouldn't be surprised if he lost, only because I don't think he will, though. I'm like Charles. I've loved the guy from the beginning, and his comeback from after getting knocked cold is one of those incredible stories.
Right.
Just fighting a younger guy, very motivated guy, undefeated, I believe, in San Diego, Julio Cesar Martinez. And this is just one of those fights that if you were a gambling man, well, actually he's 18-1, Martinez.
Right.
You would, if you were gambling and you were looking at odds, I think you'd put money on Martinez, just because when you get to be Chocolatito's age and with the wear and tear, you don't know. And what makes him so phenomenal is little guys don't usually do what he's doing. Little guys usually peter out even before they're 30.
Right.
Chocolatito is over 30, he's had over 50 fights. When he got knocked out, I figured that was it. You get knocked out like that, so brutally.
Oh, right.
You can't come back from that.
And you shouldn't come back from that.
That man is a great fighter. That showed not only his talent, but it showed his resolve, his resiliency, right? I mean, that was incredible. So I'm not confident saying that Martinez will win. I think Chocolatito will probably win. It's just, sometimes there's trends in sports, and you start thinking about that, and the trends have been upsets. So would this be an upset? Yes, of course this would be an upset. So of course there's a good chance that Martinez can do it, but I think Chocolatito probably has enough to win. But you see, I'm hedging all over the place here. All these intangibles in my brain. But yeah, I totally agree with Charles too. If he intends to beat Chocolatito, he better bring his A++ game, because Chocolatito will bring his. He will bring everything he's got left in his body, and he's been off for a while, so that's good. And hopefully and I think he'll be in excellent shape. So it's not that, and I don't think he's overlooking the guy at all. So it's just going to be a matter of he goes over the hill a little bit more. I think that's the only reason he loses. Other than that, if he's the guy that we saw against Ostrada, he'll win.
Well, I've never heard you put so many qualifiers in one statement before. So, okay. All right, we'll roll with that.
I've lost all my confidence. I've got no confidence.
I think he'll win, but he might not. But he should, but he could. But that's okay.
I didn't say that. I said maybe, or possibly, or I heard.
Well, speaking of politics in boxing, let's jump to this one because this is the one. This is the one we've all haven't been waiting for, and we've mentioned it a few times. Coming up as I believe it's May 7th. Canelo versus Charles going to that crap. Dimitri Bivol. Now, not to say that Bivol can't fight, and not to say that it's not going to be a fight, but this is not the fight we're looking for. Well, at least we weren't looking for. Maybe they were. I don't know. But Charles, what should we expect from all of this? From the build-up, the press junket, the whole 9 yards. There's not a lot of time for any of this stuff. It's like, yeah, we'll put it on that day. We're cool. I'm not going to ask anything else. Just give me your spin on what's happening here.
Well, I mean, the day is self. The weekend is the weekend, right? It's the Cinco de Mayo weekend, so that kind of play, opens the door for a lot of stuff. People will be coming from all over the country for Kentucky Derby weekend, all kind of different things. But then it's Canelo.
It's birthdays, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But it's Canelo, so you have this contingent coming from California and other places, and people will come. But the thing about the fight is, he can do what he wants to because he's the king. He's on top. He's sitting on the top, and he made the decision. And he's going to be taken care of well financially, no matter what decision he chose. So he chose this way, and the choice of opponents, though, is good, and is going to set records because he's going back up again and weight 175 to kind of prove that it's supposed to be a tougher fight because guys fighting is supposed to be a lot more together as far as his style is concerned, cause some problems. It's all well and good. But let's be real, it's not the sexy fight, man. Everybody knows you wanted to see Jamal Charlo fight Canelo because it's the sexy pick against at least a more youthful, a guy that has a different kind of style that might test Canelo, right? And that's what it was. So the people will come, everybody will be excited, the media will cover it, but it's not going to be over the top like it could have been as far as the event is concerned. People will still show up. But see, that's the thing too, where, they like to compare Canelo and Floyd. It didn't matter who the hell Floyd was fighting. People were going to come because they wanted to see him lose or win. Canelo was good, but he doesn't have that draw. I mean, everybody wanted to see Mayweather lose. Canelo has his
side or the other, right? Yeah,
has his core group of people that are going to be there. But you're not seeing people going, the top-notch stars going, oh yeah, the NBA players, the football players said, oh, I got to go see Canelo, unless he fights somebody like Charlo. So it'll be a good fight, happy for Canelo to sign the deal, and sounds like Triple G signing on again for September. But overall, I think it could have been so much more. If you really say you are the guy, and people can say the same thing about past people too, if you say you are the guy and you want to prove to the world who you are, then it's time to step in with people that we consider, even the fans consider, a better choice of talent. Because you do this, and then you go in afterwards in September, if you do end up fighting Triple G, who's like 96 now. I mean, you waited until he got old. And now if you win, you expect to say people to go, oh, you finally beat him legitimately. People gonna go, hell no, see, you waited. If we waited like somebody else waited on somebody else, it goes on and on. But it's his call. He's gonna make money. But if you really wanted to make it more a true event, they knew what they should have done. But hey.
Yeah, I know. It's just all right, John. So we're looking at this fight. We're going to kind of move around the timeline of this. So this is happening in May. Now, Golovkin decided. I'm trying to look it up real quick. And I'm going to lose my mind completely because I'm trying to do three things at one time. He decided to fight with.
The Japanese fighter, Ryan Murata.
Murata? Right. Okay, that's what I was thinking. Right. And that's supposed to take place in.
Yeah. I don't even know if that fight is signed. I mean, they were going to.
Not signed. Okay. All right. Well, the reason I'm bringing that up is because what Charles said was, you fight, Canelo fights Bivol in May, and then that sets up Triple G later. I don't think it does. I think it's to the point where Triple G just said, screw it, I'm going to fight whoever, and then whatever happens. I don't think that other fight happens again like Charles said, until Triple G's 103. I don't think it happens again at all at this point. But you tell me.
Well, from what I understand, they have a signed contract, so it won't happen.
How do I know?
Yeah, for Golovkin. You know Golovkin wants it badly because, yeah, he's older than I am now. So you know Yates jokes can we make? This is what he's been waiting for 2 years. I mean, if I'm him, I don't even think I'm going to take the fight with the Japanese fighter because what he could get cut. Who knows what could happen at his age now? So he's back training though. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe he does. I defy everything. He's been waiting for so long. I don't know. I don't think it's good to wait when you're older though, because you're already slower and your reflexes are a little slower and you're rusty and all that. But he's going to cash in, or cash out, however you want to look at it.
Right.
He'll give it all. Golovkin is hella ballsy and gutsy. He'll give it everything he's got. But yeah, Canelo. This is where Canelo, he can look at you like you're crazy and wonder why people don't love him as much as they might. And it's a different kind of dislike than say Floyd Mayweather with people, money, and he's throwing into all the flash and the arrogance and all this. This is where he gets disliked because they're saying just what Charles said. You planned this whole thing. You fought him the first time when people were already saying he was already starting to go over the hill.
And that was 9 years ago, right?
That's like Sugar Ray Leonard when he fought Marvin Hagler. People were like, "Oh, okay, so you saw him against Mugabe," and he admitted it. He said he saw him Hagler against Mugabe, and he went, I think I can do something here, and so he exploited it, and then there's a result everyone's going to argue about for until the world ends. So
we'll talk about that for a while, so it's no big deal.
Okay, so it's fighters do that, and Floyd Mayweather and Manny got that when it's like, why did you guys wait so long until you finally fought? I mean, it's true. Look at Charles. Wow, he got his attention. So there is a little bit of that in there with Canelo, actually a lot, because see, he would have got more respect from the boxing public if he had said, "Look, I'm tired of Charlo. We're fighting."
Now let's flip that around.
Fighter, he deserves it.
Okay, and that makes sense from our point of view.
Yes, but not their point. No.
But if I'm Canelo, now I can't put myself in that mindset, but I'm just trying to. Okay, Charles, you beat Canelo. You beat Canelo Alvarez, and you think about what is best for your career, your legacy, your pocketbook, and who do you fight? Why do you fight them? What do you have to gain from fighting Charlo as opposed to Bivol or Benavidez or Andre or whoever else, Triple G? What works for you?
Well, I mean, the money not really. If the money comes into play, you will never fight like a Benavidez because you don't respect him. One, you don't think he's worthwhile of your time, so that's why he's not getting any love at all.
Right.
With Charlo, you kind of go, yeah, he's here. Everybody's been talking about him. You can make money off of it. PBC told you how much money it will give you for this, but then you like, well, yeah, I could fight him, but for my career, it's a little bit more dangerous, and everybody knows that. It's a little bit more dangerous.
I can also fight him 3 years from now as well.
Right. It's a little bit more dangerous, but but Bivol.
Well, I didn't mean it that way, but you know what I mean. He'll still be around in 3 years, where Triple D probably shouldn't be.
Or 2 years, but right. I'll fight Bivol because even while it's dangerous because he's bigger, 175, we think normally when you move up like that Bivol is going to be slower. Right, he may not be as fast, and that's what I think Canelo has always banked on, that he was going to be more mobile than these big dudes, and as long as he doesn't get caught, and if the guy doesn't get caught by the guy, then that's cool. Plus two, and I don't know, I mean, John can help me with this, or Frank as well, I'm not sure if Bivol has any power, or major power is known for any power, but it seems to me as if Canelo, they strategically know, it's kind of like when Roy Jones fought John Ruiz for the heavyweight title. You kind of know, you choose the guy because you know what he brings. And you go, well, I can handle that. Even if he gets a good punch, I still can handle it because I'm not afraid of what he really brings. And it's exactly allows me to accomplish my goal of moving up to another weight class at 175 and being given a dominant performance. So with all that being said, it's kind of apples and oranges and maybe in his eye. But then as you move forward, you go, well, we know what the money is. The money is Triple G. So if PBC could have given me one fight or whatever, I can just kill two birds with one stone by getting the Bivol fight and then also getting the Triple G fight added on, which is going to be big money. Because even if you think Triple G is over the hill or he's long in the tooth, it's a fight that a lot of people think that Canelo lost at one point, and they're going to pay to see it, even if it's just on a dream that maybe he finally gets upset. So with all that being said, that's where the money is. And so Canelo's like, well, I beat this dude, give me time to get ready. Triple G is getting older, even more older. About a month go by, and I got a long time between May and September to get ready. And then what if he does get upset by this, this Japanese fighter? That's another thing. Then I'm going to say, look, see, I told y'all, because now the other thing, last thing I'll say on this is, I heard too that there's a possibility. They ain't even talking about this. This is where Canelo gets you. And you may not like who he's fighting, but they're even mentioning that Canelo said he might fight 3 times this year. So he might come back after the Triple G fight, come back in December and fight again to show you I am the alpha. I am the man. I am the guy. I am the face of boxing. And I'm going to take on all these somewhat decent contenders and show you 3 times in a year. You don't hear that anywhere else. And see, look at me. See, I am the champion. And I
getting called, right.
All here, man. It's all here.
It's the big deal.
Well, there's, and I'm going to mess this up because I don't really know, but I'm going to try and stay as young as I can. There's a Green Day song, Times of Your Life, and this is September. All that. That's where we're looking at who we're trying to piece together with Canelo. We're going to go after the stuff where we're starting to build that the tail end of your legacy of who we are and how people can remember us. And you don't want to be remembered by getting beat by somebody. You want to remember by beating, you finished up this epic battle with Triple G. You went up in weight and you fought Bivol. You did this, you did that. But if you go and fight, this is my opinion, if you go and fight the guys that have a chance of beating you, you can't build on that legacy. So that's why that's my opinion. John, you can weigh on it on that bull crap and see what you think.
I guess I'm on the opposite side because I think that builds your legacy. If you fight guys,
I do too.
Yeah, if you fight guys that are risky and you win, that makes you a great champion. The word that comes to mind here is calculated. If you're calculated in who you're fighting because you say the reward is bigger than the risk. I mean, and I get it. It's part of the game. We know it. But it's also, it cheapens it to me a little bit. I mean, Dimitri Bivol is a good fighter. Canelo could lose. He could be outboxed. He's probably, I'll say it right now, the fight will probably be close for 7 or 8 rounds. Very close. Bivol tends to tire late. He could definitely lose. But a Charlo or a Benavidez, especially Benavidez, are riskier. But then that's where you get to be polarizing because people go, well, if you're so good, you keep saying you're so good, why aren't you fighting the best guys? Yeah. And that's where the way people look at legacies, at least that's the way I look at legacies. If you're avoiding the best guys, or not avoiding, maybe it's the right word, you're calculating when you're going to fight people. You're going to fight them when they're 80 years old. You're going to fight, it makes, to me, it cheapens your legacy. You're still the guy. You're going to win another title, light heavyweight, probably win another title. That all looks good on paper. But when you study it closer is when you see, well, what about Benavidez? What about Charlo? What about Benavidez? So he's probably got more money than God. So it can't be about money anymore. So if you're seriously looking at your legacy, you got to accept the fact that for some people or a lot of boxing people, your legacy isn't exactly tarnished, but it's weakened by who you're fighting. And that can be a problem later when people study your career and go, and it happened. I mean, Floyd Mayweather is constantly criticized for some of the guys he didn't fight. We know that. And that goes with it. But then we always go back and we say, was Muhammad Ali ever criticized for not fighting anyone that was? And I guess maybe that's the standard bearer in my brain, since I'm old too, a lot older than Triple G, that you think back to those days, that the top guys wanted to fight the top guys. They weren't saying, oh, well, let's wait until he's 35 instead of 32. Let's wait till this. No, he's the man. It would be like in that day, it would have been like if the welterweight champion was Napoli's or whatever, and Boots was hanging around, he'd have said, I'm fighting Boots.
Not going to spar with you, right?
I'm fighting him. Well, I'm fighting him. He's the number one guy. He's exciting. We're fighting. And it would have been like that 30 or 40 years before that. Now it's all these little games they play, and that's why I think people get tired of boxing, because it's like, come on, just sign it and get in there. And again, it is real quick. It's like Dillian Whyte with all his fussing around about signing the contract. I mean, come on, man. You either want to fight him or you don't.
Why would you even be considering not doing it? Right.
Right. How could you even, how could you be debating this? You've been talking about it for 5 years. How could you be suddenly going, well, I'm mad that he's, I guess I just don't understand some of the modern, I get you want to get as much money as possible. I get that. It's risky, blah, 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 blah. But think about the big picture here. So,
well, you've made me, since I tried to go as younger, I'm going to go back in time. You made me think of the old TV show Password and Al Ludden.
Thank you.
Calculated. The password is calculated. But there's a point to that, though. There's a point to that, because we're looking at, well, Charles and I, we were discussing the NBA 75 the other day. And what you're saying makes sense. However, the way legends and legacies are now calculated isn't quite the way we used to think that they were. Bill Russell won rings. Bill Russell's stats weren't that great. Rebound stats, yeah, but everything else, pedestrian, compared to the other guys that we're talking about as great centers. And this isn't a knock on the guys that it's talked about, but, Allen Iverson got to a finals. We'll give him the new 25. But Carmelo Anthony, really? And you can say what you want. Russell Westbrook, are you kidding me? What is it that you've accomplished with this great career of yours? And now, so when I say, when I'm building my legacy, if I'm Canelo, and I agree with you if you're you, but if I'm Canelo, my legacy is, how many belts did I win? How many fights did I have that I was, didn't have any problems? Blah, blah, blah. Did I go out and fight the hard fight? People aren't going to remember that in 5 years. Are they going to remember that I didn't fight Charlotte? We will, but people won't. That I didn't attack Andre or Benavidez or whoever. My legacy is
calculated.
Calculated, exactly. So, Charles, now we slipped a little basketball reference. Run with the reference and say, what is it that we're looking for from, well, okay, let's do that. We kind of laughed at the Dillian Whyte thing of, and now that you've got what you want, why haven't you signed on the dotted line? Any explanation for that? Why did it take so long to make an agreement?
I'm gonna say this, and I don't know Dillian Whyte, but people, action speaks louder than words. And Dillian Whyte has been calling for a shot for a long time, and he got in there with with some previous people he fought and whatever, and everything sounded good. You can talk a lot till somebody put it on the table. And then finally was on the table, you kind of go, well, damn, I didn't think they were serious. I thought I could just kind of run in my mouth. Anyway, kind of like somebody ran for president. Anyway, found out they won. Anyway, didn't think they were going to win. But, you have to look that up, allegedly. But
the Pierce, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Part of it is, though, I think that Whyte was like, I'll fight him. I can't wait. I'm looking for the opportunity. And then the contract was right in front of him. And then he watches the fight, the third fight with Wilder, and it's like, damn. and Wilder was in shape. What are you going to do? But I'm all out here, and I can't come to the press conference because I don't want to show you my body is I'm gonna protrude over, probably smelling, got alcohol coming out my veins or whatever, allegedly. Whatever it is, you can tell someone right. And then he says to himself, well, I didn't think he was that serious. And he's like, yeah, you've been running your mouth. So let's do it. And he was like, well, I got to do it, right? Well, I don't know. And then 2 minutes before the deadline, see, that shows me fear right there, too. And even if you go, okay, I'm making my mind, I'm fighting. So I think that's what it was, something to the fact that the reality of the situation came in front of him. And then he was like, this dude is the real deal. And if I'm there, I can't have a slip up or try to fight for 3 rounds. This dude is going to possibly really kick my butt. And I basically become, I get exposed for the fraud that I might be. Because we know one thing about Mr. Fury has done it the last couple of times. He talks it and damn it, he walks it. So, you know, as they said, that the old adage they say, you might have bit off more than you can chew. Or you might have wrote a check your ass gonna cash.
I'm going to start calling Dillian Whyte footnote. That's what I'm going to start calling it. It's the Rolling Stones song. You can't always get what you want, but if you run your mouth too much, you're going to get what you need, and that's going to be an ass whipping from Tyson Fury. That is what is going to happen. Now, again, he might get himself in shape. He might be ready to roll, but John, you can tell me because you've seen more of the fights. Has he done enough in the past to be able to say, on his best day and on Tyson Fury's above average day, does he have a shot?
Well, Tyson Fury, give it to him. He said, "Look, he might chin me." You know, and that's about his chance. He's going to have to chin him. He's going to have to nail him with a big punch. And we know Wilder did it. Mm-hmm. Wilder did it more than once.
Well, and when you say puncher's chance, that's the biggest puncher's chance out there.
Right. And I'm not saying that I'm any braver than Dillian Whyte, but I would be trying to think, hey, he got knocked down twice against Wilder. Yeah, he won, and I'm an underdog, but I got to figure out how I can surprise him. You know, if I could maybe get to that chin, because Dillian Whyte can punch. Watch the way he knocked out Chisora. I mean, it was brutal. Sure. Knocked Joseph Parker a few times. I mean, he had Anthony Joshua, who he knows chin is but he had him all over the place. So, but his chin, he's been knocked out a few times too. So I would think that you would be thinking, well, this is it. It depends on if I'm going to put it on the line here. And it's easy to say this, hard to do it, because you could get knocked out in boxing and not wake up.
Right. Especially
from a guy who's 6'7", 260 or 280 pounds now, whatever he weighs. So is he going to go in? I think he will. I think he's going to. His only strategy is to try to surprise Fury, who's going to have his jab in his face all night. It's going to be ugly at times, but he does have a puncher's chance, like we said, and he is a pretty good fighter. He's not a great fighter, of course. We use that term too much. He's pretty good. He got knocked out by an old Povetkin. Perfect uppercut, so Fury took note of that.
Right.
Okay, he ducked right into it. So his chances are slim, but he's getting what he wanted. It's like you said with that song, Frank. He's gonna get what he wants. You can't always get what you want, but he reminded me more of the guy that was saying, cross this line, and then he crosses it. Cross this line, and he crosses it. Cross this line, and he crosses it. I was just joking.
I've run out of lines. Yeah, right.
I'm gonna cry, and I like you said, Charles. I said it last week. If I'm Fury, I'm like, I got this guy beat already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
so that's the way it looks. Fury said he's going to retire after this fight. He retires after every fight, as we know.
Right.
He confirmed it with this one. He said, "This is it. I got $150 million in the bank, and this is." I'm like, "That's it." But you have more than that. He's gonna say see you until the Joshua fight comes up.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about people with suspect chins, and for some reason, and I'm going to get crucified for this. I'm sorry. I'm going to start calling those Anthony Davis-esque. Anyway. All right.
Yes.
Anyhow. Okay. Yeah, I know. Just hose me down. I'm done. All right. But what we're getting now is the conversation back of what can happen. You know, can Josh Warrington get his title back? Is that a possibility? Should we think that it should happen? Was it a one-shot deal that it happened, that he wasn't prepared? Or, as we've mentioned with other people, is this guy his kryptonite? Are there fights out there? You know, what, and Charles, you said it perfectly. What Errol Spence Jr. are we going to get against Ugas, and is Ugas really that good?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think there are two questions in that fight, because I'm not sure we know if this is the real Errol Spence, or if we're ever going to see the real Errol Spence again. Maybe we have, maybe we won't. I don't know. But what Ugas showed us, and what you guys talked about prior to that fight with Pacquiao, I was like, this guy's no slouch. We're shortchanging him because he wasn't one of the sexy names in that bunch, and we hadn't talked about him like everybody else in the last 2 or 3 years. And he came out and went, that looked pretty good. That doesn't look like somebody that just said, I'm going to fight the old guy and hope he's over the hill. So that's something we have to think about. Again, we're talking about the Fury and Dillian Whyte thing. There are things that are out there that are good. Hopefully they continue to get better. So Charles, what is the, I forgot Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez. There's another fight that I don't know if it can live up to our hype, but it might live up to everybody else's hype, because I think it's going to be one hell of a fight.
Yeah.
So what else is happening, or should be happening, or whatever, that we're going to look at and say, this is what boxing's about. This is why we have it. This is why I'm watching an undercard against guys that I hadn't previously thought of, that I got to call somebody and say, watch it. What else is going on? We're going, things are moving back along.
Like you said before, I love the Valdez versus Shakur Stevenson fight. But I'm gonna pull a John out right now. Pull one of Johnisms out, right? Even though it's been the way I got to this point, it was kind of weird because I was watching something I really didn't want to watch, but I ended up liking something that I didn't know I was going to like. And I'm really looking forward to Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano.
There you go. I was wondering which one we were going to go there. Right.
I've really seen a lot of Katie Taylor, but because of Mr. Paul and his antics and whatever he's been doing with the Bozo show, whatever, he's been a hell of a marketer by bringing Amanda Serrano and watching some real great boxing. And she has great hands, and she's a top-notch fighter in her sport. And as much as I heard about Katie Taylor and what she's done and how great she is, I want to see that fight, because I like Serrano. She's everything about her personality. She's just solid. She just want to fight, and she just want to live life. She's not looking for nobody to do anything great for her. She's starting to think about training her own fighters. She's almost like a female Rocky in a way that she's just like, hey, opportunity came. I'm glad to be here. I've been fighting a long time. Y'all just didn't know. You did not pay attention to me and give me the love I deserve. I've been a champion a long time. But now, because of whatever, the weirdest ways of my manager, whatever, you see me, now I get a real shot. And I love that, because it's a great story. And the way that she's going about it, and hell, Josh talked about Katie Taylor so much. I started looking at her, and
I gotta check this out, right?
I'm paying attention to her. So now we got somebody to throw up against John's Katie Taylor. I'm going with my girl, the underdog, and roll with her. Now we got something we can get into, and I'm like, I think it's going to be an amazing fight. I really do.
Cool. John, what do you think that it's not just must see, but it's must have?
Well, I did look at Golovkin. He is fighting April 9th against Murata. So that is a confirmed fight, April 9th. So he's rolling the dice. Well, Katie's my girl, as Charles knows. So gold medalist.
Thunder. Thank you very much.
6 years. I've been man crushing on her for a long time. She's so classy. And this is the thing too. Amanda Serrano also extremely classy. And this is going to annoy some people, and I don't care. They're sure balls in the men. They're both undefeated. You're talking about legacy. This is Herms Leonard. I mean, this is the big fight in women's boxing in years. So they've got more guts than the men because they're not like, oh, well, she's making more money than me, or they're nothing. They both signed and done.
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden. I even told Dove about it, and she's like, "Oh, really? Maybe I should watch this one." I go, "Yeah, I think you should watch this one." So, it's on the same night as the Valdez Stevenson fight, which is kind of a bummer, April 30th. But Bob Arum made some disparaging comments. Nobody cares about women's boxing anyway, so it's not going to hurt. It's like, all right, Bob, gee whiz. But April is the big month, and one weekend after another. And you know what? I saw a picture of Errol Spence, and he's training, obviously, and he looks good. So if he's Errol Spence, Ugas won't beat him. Mm-mm. Just depends on what he is with everything that's going on. But he looks like he's focused. And it's only March 2nd, right? So he's still got over a month to go. That is bad news for Ugas because Errol is a better fighter, I think. But Ugas is also going to be just as focused and primed. So that's a hell of a matchup. And then there's Fury and Wilder the following weekend, or I think they're right around the same time, 16th and the 23rd. And then ending the month, we've got Serrano and Taylor and Stevenson and Valdez. So, man, if you're a boxing fan, you're loving this, but it's Charles Serrano and Taylor. I mean, that's in Madison Square Garden. That is huge. That's Ali Frazier, baby. I mean, that's what I always think about Madison Square Garden. And then all the other fights, Rocky Marciano, and God, there's so much history in that place. That's an awe-inspiring thing. So all kudos to those ladies. They deserve this. They're putting it on the line. This is what boxing is supposed to be.
You've got Jeff Van Gundy. Oh, sorry. I'm going to be serious for a moment here, and I know it's rare that it happens, and it's not going to happen that often. Politics aside, I don't care what you think about whatever's going on, but the fact that the Klitschko's, Lomachenko, the Ukrainian fighters, even the MMA guys, are going back and serving their country, not just lip service and getting behind a microphone and talking a bunch of mess like we would do here in America. They're actually putting on a uniform, manning a post. So I think that's very impressive. You've got one of the, I forget, one of, Vitaly the mayor? Okay, Vitaly's the mayor of Kiev, and then Vladimir, 50 years old, is put on uniform and joined the service.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lomo was in a battalion. Now, again, I don't care about your politics on how you look at this. But we're going to do something. And I think that instead of just saying, we're going to hold a telethon, or we're going to get on a bus and run around in circles and talk a bunch of mess, and if that's how you have to do it here because you can't join, I'm not getting into that. All I'm saying is that they've spent their time here, made their money here or elsewhere, and they said it is now time to give back with more than just a check. So I'm impressed. I'm impressed, and I hope this doesn't last that long. I hope that there's some kind of understanding or something that happens soon. War is never good. War never proves anything. I've always believed that the worst way to change somebody's mind is to kill them. Doesn't make much difference at all that way. But again, I'm just impressed that they said, without really a lot of preambles, like, what? Invasion? I'm there tomorrow. So, or today in some cases. So hats off to them for doing what appears to be the right thing. So, and on that somber, serious note, we will end the show because we like to be serious and not have any fun on this show. So, folks, look, this is what we do. We talk boxing. Every now and then we talk actual real world stuff, but we try and keep it light and kind of have fun with it. So, Charles, any final thoughts?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for always watching and paying attention. Again, I'm telling you, if you really want to know something that's really solid about boxing and somebody that might have a clue and looks at it from a different type of perspective, check us.
Don't listen to me. Oh, sorry.
No, that's you. I know what the hell I'm talking about. Anyway. Look, most times
I meant don't listen to me is what I meant. Yeah.
When you said me, though, it's like you was referring.
Listen to those two. Don't listen to me.
Me, Frank, get yourself out of there. He's talking about.
Yeah. What? You want to act out like that? That's on you. The people know.
Okay, Frank.
Watch it. Tell him what
Get rid of him. Get rid of him.
Listen to. Thank y'all for watching, man.
John?
It's all yours, Mr. Host.
I already said my final thing.
Okay, you want me to say something?
Yeah, say something literate.
Literal?
Literate.
I can't even spell literal, so you want me to say
That's why I put the TE on the end.
With all this stuff, again, with what you said, Frank, it shows you that really, as much as we love boxing, it's pretty small compared to the big things. And when you see these guys doing this, putting it on the line, and you know that the president of Russia, that Putin guy, is thinking like Hitler was thinking, oh man, I can knock off one of those big guys. That would be some kind of a PR thing. The way whatever's going on with his brain. But that's to me, that shows you something about these guys. I mean, they got all the money in the world and they're willing to risk it all. They left their families. People can criticize if they want. I don't care. I'm impressed like you guys. I think that what they're doing shows more than just courage. Shows real conviction, which we really don't have a lot in this country anymore. You know, back up what you say and do it. Total kudos to them. Boxing takes a back seat to this, so I wish I had a great quote to wrap it up, but I love the fact that they're doing this. I hate the war too, Frank. They're meeting today. Hopefully this is David versus Goliath. Hopefully this thing is going to wrap up sooner than later, but an ugly situation over there in Ukraine. But man, Ukraine is feisty. Got to give it to them. I think Russia's been pretty surprised by how much they're fighting, but that's what it's all about. And sadly, I don't think a lot of Americans are barely even paying any attention to this war. And, you know, if it's not in my backyard, I don't care. And that's too bad. And I actually doubt a lot of Americans would fight like this, to be honest. But, you know, all the kudos to them. And, you know, keep it in perspective. We love boxing, but we also have the ability to see bigger than just having the narrow things on here and see the real important things. And that definitely is extremely important.
Well, the thing that, and I guess I'm going to say one more thing, the thing that I like, and I think I'm just reiterating what I said, is that now I don't know how much of a ceremonial post these guys are walking. I don't know. It looks like they put on a uniform, they did it. And I go back to Bob Hope and the USO and all that. And more, God love what they did. But Bob Hope wasn't man in a station. And nothing against Bob Hope because he was 87 at the time. But those people weren't going out and saying, we're going to go man a station. If they come, they come. These guys are like, from what I can tell, they're like, we are going to be part of the service. So that to me is what's impressive. So, you know, all the celebrities get on the plane and go over there and fly and be without shampoo for a couple of days. Oh, well, let's actually do something to get this done. So I'm impressed by what's happening. So, and again, it's, let's, as we say, do the Bob Baffert or the anti-Bob Baffert and beat a dead horse. But in the concepts of what we're looking at here, this is what boxers do. Boxers get down and dirty and do something. This is part of what this sport is. Mano a mano, as Charles said, you got to go out and you got to look the guy in the face that's going to punch you in the face and punch him in the face too. You know, you've got to go do something. So it stands to reason that they would say, if there's a fight, we want to be involved.
You know, one last thing.
Please.
I agree with you guys, but I also think too that from the standpoint of it shows you the strength and it shows you the conviction they have about their country, right? I mean, because the one thing I think is really sad about this, you mentioned about America, is some people are still wondering, why is the Ukraine being invaded? I mean, that for a lot of Americans, it's like, why is this even happening? And then you watch how America's playing the way it is into it and whatnot, and what their role has been taken. I mean, the one thing that's great about it is the talks, you know, that they hopefully come together and get this done and get this over with to spare more lives. Because anytime anybody loses their lives, it's really a tragedy. But I think that's part of it. But you know, when you it's like anything else. If you feel that strong about something, then, you know, the money's no big deal. Because, I mean, when this is done, then they can come back to whatever their lives are, do what they do. But if you love something that much, you stand on it. And I think here in America, because we have not been threatened like that and we got comfortable, we live a very comfortable life. I mean, like somebody was coming to your house in your neighborhood, then you might rise up and, you know, you might grab some arms to defend yourself. For them, it's on the front line because you've heard a number of folks over here saying that their family. I think I was watching. Was it Postal? What was it? Postal. Yeah. Postal mentioned he had to go back because his family was he had to leave his family.
Yeah.
Literally after the fight against against Russell, he ran back.
They got to go back, right?
He said he's gonna go back to a certain point of a border, and he said he was going to drive to go get his family. And he said, I'll cross the border. That means I have to walk. I'm going to get my family because my family is still behind the lines.
Right.
And that tells you sometimes in your life, no matter how much money you make, that some things are more important because you only come this way one time, you only get one family. And we have a gentleman with his wife and his kids that are still in danger. I mean, the average person go, well, I throw some money at it. But, you know, when you got people that you love and their lives are on the line, you do what you got to do to take care of them.
Thank you, folks. We don't normally do this, but I'm glad we did. So enjoy your day, enjoy your night, enjoy your life. Thank you.
One day at a time, baby.